What would you say is an ideal sync percentage for a pharmacy to get to?
So we had a talk on this one. Trying to think what the title of that session was called. I can't remember, but anyway, it was basically saying like what percent of your sync, of your patients should be enrolled in sync or processed through sync to get the real benefits out of a sync model. Because I think what happens is that people try to do sync, and your pharmacy owner is going to assign Susie the technician and say, hey, you're going to manage the sync program, and Susie may enroll 50 to 100 patients that she contacts month to month, and they think they've got a sync program. But to the owner, he's paying an extra technician to manage 100 patients, and it's not making any difference to the pharmacy workflow. So what we started to tell people is, if you had to put a number to it, it's got to be 50%. 50% of your volume has got to be run through the Medsync model. It's not because that's the magic number, but the idea is that it's your normal way of doing business. So what pharmacies struggle with, I think, is that when you're serving, 5,000 patients a month and only 100 of them are being, synced and managed through the sync model, those 100 patients are really a pain to the rest of the workflow, because you're doing them differently than the rest of your workflow. But proactive versus reactive is what we like to say.
So that needs to be the norm.
So what we tell people is like, no, you need the majority of your patients to be running in that model, the majority of your business to be proactive, not reactive. Then you'll start getting the benefits. Then you can start making major changes to your workflow and make major shifts, to your inventory, your cash flow, your patient care. I mean, I think another one of the things we say a lot is, Medsync is the foundation of the appointment-based model. I think sounds really nice, but what does that mean? Well, it just means that if you just change the way that you're serving your patients and changing the way that, the pharmacy operates, you can layer on so many new opportunities on top of that. Because in the reactive model, you're not in control of anything. So just changing, making that shift in your pharmacy workflow, the dispensing workflow, that's where you start to get some opportunities to really start layering some services on. And it's all about time. I mean, we have pharmacies all the time that say, I don't have the time to do Medsync. I don't have the time to call patients every month. And I say, well, the patients that you're saying you don't have time to make an outbound call to are making inbound calls to you. Times 10 that you would be doing through Medsync. So people don't understand, like, oh, I'm going to have to hire extra staff. No, you don't. When you start to enroll patients in Medsync, you start to get these efficiencies and you get more efficient about taking care of individual patients, that all of a sudden you'll feel like you've lost patients because you feel less busy and you've got more time on your hands. And that's what we see. Every single pharmacy that we train that comes through Tyson Drugs and spends a day with us, every single one is the same exact scenario. They get to that mark and they think they're losing patients when in reality they're getting efficient. So it's really kind of cool to see.
You just nailed that on the head there, Weston. I mean, that was well said. It's a mindset. It's a whole different mindset. It's a whole different operation. So
and the other thing we get is like, we get a lot of questions on the webinar that we do each week, and a lot of them, people will say, well, how do you get your team to do this? Or how do you get your technician to do this well? And I think there again, it's Medsync is a great model, but it also comes down to running a good business, running a clean, mean machine. And, if you don't have great leadership and a great workflow, Medsync is going to be hard.
Yep.
So.
I love it. That was great. I got one pharmacy that they're about $1.5 million revenue a month, and their inventory at the end is like $100,000, $50,000. They are Medsynced to the T.
Nice.
You can imagine where the rest of that inventory is. It's sitting in their bank account.
Yeah, right.
So, yeah, it's.
Well, just in 2018, we had almost $1 million of inventory between 4 locations, and we're pretty high volume stores. And within the last, 6 years, we've actually gotten all all of those same inventories, we've gotten them down almost at 250.
That's
There you
awesome.
go.
So yeah, so and I've got a pretty little chart that we like to show off, and I think when people see that and they see that amount of money going back in an account, I think that's when they're kind of sold on Medsync. I don't know what a new automation robot costs. I know they're expensive, but how many years have pharmacists gone to trade shows and been so quick to buy one of those machines and invest in that, but they don't want to invest in something that's free, Medsync, that's going to make just the same, if not better, of a return, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So, which, I mean, don't get me wrong, we love our Parada, but when it really comes down to investing your time and energy into something, if you're not doing Medsync, it doesn't make sense to be doing anything else.